You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
The following message contains a special offer for listeners of this station. Are you a man over 40? Are you constantly looking for the nearest bathroom? Do you wake up multiple times a night to use the bathroom?
From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360. 888-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Conservative Commando's radio show. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel. And, of course, we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. And, of course, if you would like to hear a rebroadcast, you can always check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCR Show. You can log on at noontime to roarradio.net and at 11 p.m. to highplainsdailynews.com. And, of course, you can listen to Conservative Commandos at any day, any time, by phone, calling 832-999-1199. And as Rick Trader says, we're everywhere. We have to get the message out against the twisted message of the mainstream media. And Sharon Engel, my co-host today, welcome to Conservative Commandos.
Thank you, Anna. It's a fabulous Friday again. There's lots to talk about. You know, you'd think that if Trump won, Conservative Commandos would have done their job. We would just dust our hands off and say, that's it. It's a good time to be in America. We're going to go off and do what we need to do as regular citizens. I know you have a job. I have a job. There's lots to life besides being here trying to figure out how to get this country back on the right path, or at least get the right leaders in position. And yet, Anna, the fight is not over. The battle is not won. We may have won a skirmish here, but certainly there is a lot of work to do, and the dust hasn't even settled on the problems that are still in this nation. It is amazing, Anna, just to see the protesting that's going on. You think you've seen it all from the liberal left until you've seen something else.
Yes, that's the way to look at it. It certainly is something else. But I will say I'm very proud of that campaign team, now become the transition team, and working on staffing up and walking into the White House ready to hit the ground running and get the job done. So I'm really proud of them. They came in from the outside, they came up from the grassroots, and they're going to lead, they're going to take charge, and they're going to show the, the elite how to really get things done, and what we, the people, have been calling for many years. So I'm kind of excited about the ins and outs at Trump Tower, and I guess Trump and Romney are down here in New Jersey, where I live today, and just everybody having their FaceTime, having their moment, and then staffing up to get the work done.
Well, you're right, Anna, and I think that's where my head is at today, is the staffing up piece. You know, they're looking for, they say, about 4,500 good conservatives ready to hit the ground running on January 20th when Trump is sworn in. And there's a lot of positions that are open, things on commissions and boards and positions within the cabinet on the executive branch. And I think that we have folks on our Conservative Commandos host rostrum that should be applying, and a little. I think that you would be a great help to the Trump campaign, especially with your expertise on immigration, illegal immigration, legal immigration, how to get the job done, who to deport, all of that. You kind of have been working in that for years and years and years, and I think that you would be a plus to the Trump team, and I want you to apply. And, you know, I know that most people don't understand this, but there is a way to apply. That you can go online. It's at greatagain.gov, greatagain.gov, and then you click on Serve-America. And from there, there's an application. Click on the application, and voila, it's an easy application to fill out. All you have to do is put in the answers to the questions, your resume, and send it off. And Anna Little, I hope you will do that. I also hope that Kevin Wade will do that. You know, Kevin has been knee-deep in national security for a long, long time. I think he should be on that list, at least of people that are willing to serve. Now, whether they choose any of us or not, you know, that's one thing, but at least we've thrown our hat in the ring and said, we're willing. We want
Well,
to help.
I agree with that. And it's important that we step up. You can't expect the job to be done by just the candidate alone. So it's important that we provide that support. We've got to put our boots to the ground, and we've got to walk the walk. We've been talking the talk all campaign season. Now it's time to walk the walk and get the job done, right?
Well, I think that's exactly right. And, you know, I'm thinking also of some of the great guests that we've had on Conservative Commandos Radio. They should be applying as well. You know, we've got 3 great guests today, and as I was looking through their bios, which is their short resume, I was thinking these guys would be a great asset in a little different role in the country, one of service where they could actually help the new president get this country turned around and going in the right direction. I was thinking of J.D. Manier and J.D. Gordon. J.D. Gordon's been on our show many, many times and was actually a conservative commando for a while. I think he'd be great. I was thinking about our introduction with Alan West and how much I'd like to see Alan West a part of this administration. So there's just our guests, our hosts, and Anna, I know there are people in the audience, too, that have some skills that the president needs. It's right now when we should be doing exactly what John F. Kennedy said, which was, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And it's time.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And, you know, with that, I think we have to talk about some of the people that are in the consideration. I've been hearing a lot about Secretary of State, and I've been hearing about, I'm kind of excited about hearing the wrinkles about who might become the Secretary of Health and Human Services. And I was hearing Tom Price's name being bantered about there. I'm excited about that because I know he knows the ins and outs of what's wrong with Obamacare. And he knows that competition across state lines and allowing the patient to interface directly with the insurer and not have that employer in the middle is a good idea. I'm excited about him. So if he were to head up Health and Human Services, I think that would be a terrific solution. I'm also hearing that there was a meeting with our governor from South Carolina, Nikki Haley, who I'm really a fan of. I'm wondering who you've been hearing about, Sharon.
Well, of course, I always thought Dr. Ben Carson would be the best at the Health and Human Services at the top of that, or the Surgeon General place in there. I mean, he really campaigned a lot on getting rid of Obamacare. He understands it. You're exactly right. Dr. Tom Price understands. He gets it. He'd be great in that department as well. And I think that this is one of those bureaus, if you will, the almost an entitlement bureau over there, where we need people that understand that entitlement is not the handout that makes America great again. It's the hand up. And how do we switch those things, not take them out? We'll have a guest this afternoon at the end of the show who's going to be talking about Social Security and what to do with that. We don't want to get rid of Social Security, but certainly it's broken. And the same way with our Medicaid expansion, it's broken. The same way with our health care system, it's broken, and Obamacare just broke it more, if there's such a word for that, smashed it to smithereens. So I think in that department, we need all the good heads we can get over there, looking at what we need to do in order to reform, restore, and repeal those things that will make America great again, and cut down the budget on this entitlement. My goodness, Anna, we know that over half of our budget goes to entitlement type programs. And we need to get a handle on that if we're going to be an economic force once more. I've also heard that Dr. Ben Carson's being considered for the Department of Education. Of course, there's a place I'd like to go because, you know me, I don't think there's any place for the Department of Education at the federal level. Education should be handled as close to the local level as possible, where parents and teachers are the ones making those decisions, not lofty elites in Washington, D.C., who have never even been inside a classroom, or it has been so long since they were in a classroom, they really don't get it anymore. And they're funneling so much of that money into administrative costs and testing costs, I guess, and making regulations rather than really feeling the heartbeat of what America needs in education. And, of course, education needs choice. And one of the choices would be get it to the local level so that we can make those choices.
Yeah, well, I can't agree more with that. And having raised, 3 young adult children myself, I knew the difficulties that we have as parents trying to interface with the public school system as it exists right now. We're lucky if we can find out what's going on, let alone be actively involved. But with this, I think we need to go to a break. I've been watching John's notices here, so I'm going to take us to the break, and when we come back, we'll talk about our guests. Listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with the one and only Sharon Engel. We'll be right back with you after this break.
They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Sharon Engel. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or at noon, RoarRadio.net, and at 11 p.m., HighPlainsDailyNews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any telephone by calling 832-999-1199. Sharon Engel, we are back from the break. Let's go over those guests.
Well, our first guest at 3:35, I think, is Deborah Weiss. Is that not correct?
No, it's Dan Weber. You've got Dan Weber at 3:35.
I've got him exactly opposite. Okay. Yes,
That's
Dan
right.
Weber, who is the founder and chief executive officer of AMAC, Association of Mature American Citizens. That's Voices of Americans 50 plus. And he developed the Social Security Guarantee Plan to save Social Security with no tax increases while assuring guaranteed cost of living increases and avoiding the projected 25% across-the-board cut in 2033. The Association of Mature American Citizens, which is rapidly growing, 1.3 million this year, and conservative alternative to the AARP. Dan Weber, who is a recognized expert in retirement planning, developed the proposal for Congress called Social Security Guarantee and Early Retirement Account, which is a complementary and a component of that. Dan is an authentic patriot and student of American history with a lifetime commitment to correcting the systematic erosion of values in the country that the country was founded on. He served in the Air Force, and he has a great view of the America's very foundation, the Constitution, feeling that it cannot be disregarded. And each year, the power of the government increases while individual freedoms are threatened by excessive taxation, out-of-control government spending, and increasing interference in the lives of citizens. Dan is a great guest, again, like we were talking before, and one of those good guys that should be helping the president.
Well, I'm excited to be speaking with another good guy who could probably help out the president. His name is Manuel Rosales. We call him Manny Rosales. He's a member of the board of directors at the Latino Coalition in Washington, D.C., and he holds the office of board secretary there. He's also an expert on the U.S. relationship with Latin America, and he's a principal founder of Seniors for Trump and Latinos for Trump, and he's a principal at the Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, PAC, where I believe 21 out of 26 of their endorsed candidates actually won this past election. So that's pretty exciting. He's going to join us today to talk about what his views are about America's relationship with Latin America, and especially the effect upon those relationships after Trump's victory. He's also going to talk about the impact of the Latino vote and the seniors vote in this most recent presidential election, and what we can expect going forward from the Latino vote. And then Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, PAC, he wants to talk to us about that, because bringing up the Latino vote, the Hispanic business people, up into the conservative world of politics is very, very important, because most of these Latino business owners, they're entrepreneurs. They're very pro-business. They love the free market. And then socially, they're conservative as well. They're very pro-family, and they're pro-life, and many of them are very religious. So it's really important to speak with guys like Manny Rosales, because we need to be thinking forward about how to combat this labeling that goes on the liberal left. And so I'm excited to be talking with him at 4:05. And then at 4:35, we have, as you mentioned, Deborah Weiss. Why don't you talk to us about her?
Well, Deborah Weiss works for Vigilance, an organization dedicated to raising awareness of Sharia law and its encroachments into the West. She's considered an expert in the Organization of Islamic Corporations' UN resolutions to stifle criticism of Islam and the Muslim Brotherhood tactics to protect Islam from so-called defamation. Ms. Weiss was the Manhattan director for the Forbes for President campaign, and she served as a counsel for the Committee on the House Oversight in Congress and worked as an assistant corporation counsel in the Giuliani administration. She's a contributing author to a book, Saudi Arabia and the Global Islamic Terrorist Network, and is the primary writer and researcher for the book, Council on American Islamic Relations, its use of lawfare and intimidation. She's also author of a book, The Organization of Islamic Corporations, Jihad Against Free Times and Speech. Against free speech. And she has been published by the Center for Security Policy. She's also a regular contributor at the Washington Times and Front Page Magazine, and has published in National Review Online, The Weekly Standard, American Spectator, and numerous other ministries. But one of the things that probably sets her apart from most other writers and many other Americans is that she was a survivor of the 9/11 terrorist attack in New York City. And it's an interesting just side note, Anna. I know that your husband was one of those survivors as well, and there are some leftover problems that come with surviving such a horrific incident, attack in our country's life. And it will be interesting to see how Deborah Weiss has turned that from such a horrible experience into such a positive for our country.
Yes, and I'm glad that she's coming on the show to talk with us, because it's important that we hear about national security from the perspective of someone who is a survivor of what I describe as an attack, an act of war against the United States of America. And it was done, by perhaps a group that doesn't necessarily respect national borders, and it's not necessarily a sovereign group, but it is certainly an enemy of the United States of America, and they have declared war on us, and in their language, jihad. So it's important for us to hear from a survivor of that attack with regard to national security. So I'm very, very interested to hear what she has to say.
Absolutely. I think we've got a great show planned for today, and I just want to encourage our listeners once more to think about what you can do for your country and what areas of service you might be best at to give to your president. We said we needed a change. We've got that change. We need to now put our own feet to the pavement and do what we can to make this America great again.
That's right. And, we were challenged, I think, by Benjamin Franklin. He was asked what form of government we the people had been given, and he said a representative democracy, or a republic, really, if you can keep it. And that's the challenge. Can we keep it? And we talk about we the people making our voice heard by going out and informing ourselves about candidates and participating in the election process. Well, when you win the election, we the people, it's also incumbent upon you to step forward, take your turn, and do your duty in one of these servant roles in support of the candidate that you encourage people to vote for, so that that candidate has the support necessary to follow through on the issues that you put forward in your voice that this candidate and now this president-elect has carried into his office. And so we need to step forward and fill these jobs. They can't do it with liberals that are sitting there now. So, it's just food for thought, right?
That's right. That's right. Always food for thought. And, of course, we want to make sure that it's more than just food for thought. We want to make sure that we are actually doing our very best for our country. We've seen what not being constantly vigilant has given us, and
that's right. Can't delegate the duties.
No, we are now suffering from that in a mighty way in Nevada, and I think that as we go through the show today, that will just become more and more clear why we have to serve. And from that, we need to go into a break so that we can get back with our first guest. So we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting Talk, stream live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 27. We'll be 24/7. We'll be right back after this break with Anna Little, yours truly, Sharon Engel, and our first guest, Daniel C. Weber, the founder and chief executive of Association of Mature American Citizens, talking about Social Security guarantees.
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Thank you, listeners, for holding with us through the break, and welcome back. If you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com or ccrshow.com. Or at noon, you can log on to loreradio.net, and 11 p.m. log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our first guest today, and the honor of introducing him is mine, is Daniel C. Webster, who's the founder and chief executive officer of the Association of Mature American Citizens, AMAC, or the Voice of Americans 50 plus. They are also the conservative answer to the AARP. Dan Weber is an authentic patriot and a student of American history with a lifetime commitment to correcting the systematic erosion of values on which this country was founded. Immediately after high school, he elected to serve his country by enlisting in the United States Air Force, and upon receiving his honorable discharge with distinction, he formed a family insurance business where he administered more than 100 pension plans over a 30-year period. He's provided indispensable guidance to thousands of people, which enabled him to develop a keen sense of understanding about America's direction. These concerns, along with the growing recognition of our country's older citizens, need more effective advocacy in Washington, were the driving forces in Dan's 2007 decision to launch AMAC. And AMAC, which is a rapidly growing 1.3 million members, and as I said, the conservative alternative to the AARP, has developed, and Dan is a recognized expert in retirement planning, and has developed a proposal to Congress called the Social Security Guarantee. And Dan, with that, welcome to Conservative Commandos radio show.
Ann and Sharon, thank you very much for inviting me to be on your show and to help join in the Conservative Commando effort. This is terrific what you're doing.
Well, we were just talking about how many Conservative Commandos are among our guests, Dan. We count you there. And we were thinking that you should put in your application to help the president on his staff. What do you think about that? We need some entitlement programs. We need those things to have some good people in there that can reform them. What do you think about being on the president's staff?
Well, I'm not looking for a job, but I can tell you this. I was at a conservative organization meeting Thursday, and what we did is we are appointing committees to work with the administration on issues like saving Social Security and reforming health care. Basically, we want to get rid of Obamacare. That's the main thing, and I'm on that subcommittee. So hopefully, once Trump's policy people are in place, we'll have an audience that, for change, is willing to listen to us.
That's terrific news. Thank you, Dan, for being so open about being a part of this administration. I know that some people expect us to stand back and play coy, but I don't think this is a time to be coy. I think we really have to offer up our services, and I'm so glad you've done that. And with your background, you now think that there is a way to guarantee Social Security. So talk to us a little bit about the Social Security Guarantee Initiative.
Sure. Well, the Liberals' answer is just like always. They want to raise taxes. Bernie wants to raise Social Security tax 4%. He wants to do all kinds of things, twisting the Social Security system to make it even more of a socialistic program than it is. AMAC has come out with a proposal that has been scored by actuaries that will save and strengthen Social Security without raising taxes. And we actually have a proposal that will give lower income people more money and a couple of the ways than they're receiving now. For example, we'll guarantee lower income folks where the household income is less than $20,000 a year. We'll guarantee those folks a 3% cost of living allowance increase. This year and last year, no seniors received an increase in Social Security. What we got instead was an increase in the Medicare premiums. So seniors have been falling behind. And again, while immigrants, they don't find any problems in housing 100,000 immigrants. They can't seem to find the money to take care of America's seniors who have been paying in to Social Security all their lives.
You know, whenever we touch Social Security, the liberal left just goes nuts. They think that we want to do away with it, somehow dismantle it, and leave our senior citizens high and dry. But that wouldn't be how this would work, would it?
That's correct. We guarantee basic Social Security. And the liberals, for 20, 30 years now, have always been, I'll just say they're distorting the truth. I won't say they're lying. Too much of that word has been going around in the last election. But what they've been doing, anytime a person comes out, like Marco Rubio 3 years ago, came out with a proposal to make some adjustments in Social Security. He was accused of taking away Social Security from seniors, which is the absolute opposite of what he was trying to do. The way Social Security is now, in the next 3 years, we are raising enough interest from the trust funds to pay for the shortfall. The shortfall this year was $70 billion. In other words, Social Security paid out more than $70 billion more than it took in. The only thing that kept it working and without reducing benefits is the interest on the trust funds, which is several $1 trillion. However, in 3 years, because there's so many baby boomers joining the Social Security ranks, the interest will not be sufficient to cover the shortage. The shortage will increase, and then they will have to start drawing down or rating the trust funds themselves. They'll be taking the money in trust and using that up. And within 10 years after they start doing that, Social Security will have no money in the trust fund. And the way the law reads, it will be a pay-as-you-go, meaning whatever they receive, that's how much they'll pay out. Well, they'll only be receiving about 3/4 of the money necessary. So in 13 years, anyone on Social Security will take about a 25% cut in their payments unless something is done. And the sooner we do it, the easier it is to fix it.
Well, I couldn't agree more with you. I know when I ran against Terry Reid, that was one of the things that they were constantly hammering on, was that I was somehow going to push Granny off the cliff because I said that the Social Security system was insolvent and that they have been borrowing those trust funds to and using them almost as a personal slush fund to make programs go. Am I correct in feeling that there really isn't any money, that what we're paying out now is the money that's coming in from younger people who are paying into the system?
The way it actually is because the government is running in a deficit. the Congress passed a law a number of years ago saying that the money that's put into the so-called trust fund has to be invested into U.S. government bonds, special issue treasury bonds. Now, they're paying about 2%. So, number one, seniors are being taken advantage of by receiving such low interest. Number two, the government is using the money that should be put aside and earning a much higher rate and using it to pay up the shortage for the expenditures that our politicians have gone crazy. So you're absolutely right. The only thing of value in the trust funds are IOU notes. Now, there are notes signed by the U.S. government, and just like a savings bond, they do have value. However, the fact that they're using our Social Security money to pay for the other government programs, that wouldn't be so much of a problem if they had a surplus and we were using the surplus in our income to pay the interest, but we're not. So we have to borrow the money from countries like Saudi Arabia and China to pay the interest on the Social Security Trust Fund. So those who say, oh, Social Security isn't contributing to the deficit, isn't contribute to a national debt, they're absolutely dead wrong.
Well, with that, Dan, we've come up against a break. Can you stay with us through the break? My co-host, Anna Little, would like to ask you a few questions as well.
Thanks, Sharon. I'll be happy to hang on.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate your time, Dan. And we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. We'll be right back after this short break with Anna Little, yours truly, Sharon Engel, and Dan Weber, our expert on Social Security, how to fix it and keep our system solvent, as well as our senior citizens taken care of in this country.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote en masse to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Anna Little and Sharon Engel. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network, and ccrshow.com, or at noon, roarradio.net, and at 11 p.m., highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos anytime, any day, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We are speaking this segment with Dan Weber, the Executive Officer for AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. Dan, thank you so much for waiting through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Thanks, Anna. Nice to be talking to you.
Well, I was listening into the interview with you and Sharon Engel, two of my favorite people talking to each other. That was really great. And, we do have to get out there and hit these issues head on, especially those that impact the seniors. I'm so glad that you're heading up AMAC. Tell us again, in detail, what is AMAC about and how does it help seniors?
Well, AMAC is founded to present an alternative choice to the left-leaning AARP. You know, AARP has done some awful things. They've supported Obamacare, even though their members were 14-1 against it. They gave Harry Belafonte an award when he came back from Venezuela, when he called America the greatest terrorist nation in the world. And so they've really been taken over, unfortunately, by a lot of leftists. So we're offering an alternative, and we favor traditional American values: family, faith, individual freedom, the free enterprise system. And thank God Americans have been listening. They've been joining us. The membership is only $16 a year. We have the same benefits that AARP has, even better in some cases. So it's just great to see that patriots are uniting. And we now have a voice in Washington, and the congressmen and senators are listening to us. You know, we said we want to replace Obamacare, and I was up there last week, and I've visited 5 different congressional offices, and we're gaining more support every time we go up there. So it's been great.
Well, that's wonderful. You know, we joke on the conservative right that AARP actually stands for the Association Against Retired Persons. And yet they put themselves out there as they're, all about helping retirees. And it's really great to see that there's an alternative out there, because many of us on the conservative right recognize that what AARP is doing is really not in the best interest of seniors, and certainly not in the best interest of the United States of America. So thank you for stepping up and for leading this organization. Now, we talk about Social Security, and, I'm on the younger end of this. My kids are even, more troubled than I am about Social Security. We're obligated to pay in, and yet it seems that the way the funds have been managed, it's such that Social Security is really not available to the seniors today, and may not be in existence for folks later on who come into collection age. So it really is kind of a bit of a theft situation, the way it's set up right now, where the government's taking your money, you're obligated to pay it in, and yet when it comes time for you to collect, as other people before you have done, it may not even be there. Can you speak to what's wrong with the current situation?
Sure. Well, I can tell you what happened, and you're absolutely right. People will be shortchanged unless we make some changes. And the liberals' answer is, we can simply raise the tax. I grew up in New York area as a young person, and when I was working, I only had 4% of my total pay taken out, 2% for Social Security, and my boss paid 2%. So I lost 4% of my possible spending money. Now, today the kids, they have 6.2% taken out, all workers, 6.2. Their bosses pay 6.2%, so we lose over 12% of our pay. In addition, 3% is taken out for Medicare, so now we're losing 15% of our income before we even earn it. On top of that, when I was growing up in New York, we didn't have a sales tax, no sales tax, until Governor Rockefeller came in. Today, the average sales tax is 7%. So now you add 7 to 15, and younger people today are losing 22% of their spendable income before they pay any income tax. So it's no wonder that people feel they're not better off, and that's because we all sat back, and when they said, we'll raise taxes, it won't hurt us, we'll go along with it. Now we're losing 22% of our potential income. And Harry Reid, and thank goodness he's leaving, and Bernie Sanders, they just want to keep increasing the tax. So AMAC says we don't have to do that. There's better ways to do it. And a couple ways we do it. We set back the age to get the full benefits. People are living longer. And we polled our members and said, would you be willing in the future to phase in making the maximum retirement age from 67, make it 70 to get the full benefit? Keep the early age at 62. And our members overwhelmingly said, sure, that makes a lot of sense. People are living longer now. So that's one way of taking care of it. And there's other features we have in the plan that will take care of it. And all it takes is a little bit of courage for people to say, I'm not afraid of touching that third rail of politics called Social Security. We can do it if we work together.
But it's really saving Social Security, isn't it, Dan? Social Security is on a death march right now. And if we leave things the way that they are, there won't be any at the end of the day. So when you see the bus coming at you and you're standing in the middle of the street, you ought to move, right? So
that's correct, and that's what we're trying to do. The more members we have, the more clout we have, and that's what we're trying to do. When we go in there, we act like ladies and gentlemen when we meet with our representatives, but we also tell them exactly what our members feel. I don't want to mention a key leader, but I told that leader's chief of staff that if that person doesn't support AMAC, we're going to tell our members that they are against helping seniors. And we will do that when the time comes. So, and they're aware of that. They don't like to be threatened, but at the same time, we don't like to have them misusing our money.
Well, that's important, and I think if you're going to be lobbying, you have to do so from a position of strength, and it sounds like that's what you're doing. I want to briefly touch, because we're running out of time, time flies when we're having fun, right, Ben? But I wanted to touch a little bit on Obamacare, because this is important to seniors, too.
Oh, my goodness. Very quickly, we've got a way to replace Obamacare, and it's with a health savings account. How would you like an account that you'd have a local doctor that you could see without paying any copay or deductible? Just go in and visit them. You'd have a savings account. You'd put in about $200 a month for the savings portion, and then you'd have a high deductible health care plan, such as a $6,000 deductible for catastrophic like surgeries. Well, if you're saving $200 a month, in 3 years you have $6,000 and more saved. So that soon after you start the plan, you'll have your local doctor covered, you'll have surgeries covered, and let's say you're only in the plan a year and you're a few $1,000s short of saving the deductible, there'll be a loan provision in it so that it will automatically pay the large deductible, $6,000, whatever the balance is, and then the payments would be paid for that loan out of the future $200 a month deposits for the savings. So we're working on that plan now, and we are getting a good audience, and it's going to vary across the country. Certain areas will be cheap, certain areas will be more expensive, but for around $300 a month, we think we can provide an outstanding health care plan for an employee.
And that is a reasonable price, $300 a month. I'll tell you, I'm in one of those exchanges right now, and I'm paying twice that for less care than what you've described. So I'm looking forward to you playing an important role with this new administration as it comes together on these very important issues, the two big issues, and that's Social Security and health care, the Obamacare alternative that you've described. Very, very proud of the work that you're doing. And with that, we're going to have to wrap up, Dan, because, as I said, time flies when we're having fun, and I've just enjoyed so much speaking with you. Can you tell our listeners where they can follow up with you?
Sure. They can go right to our website. They can enroll on the website if they'd like, and it's real simple, www.amac.us, not .com, but amac.us.
Okay, terrific. Dan Weber, thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Come back and see us again soon.
Thanks, Anna and Sharon. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too. And happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
So, listeners, that was Dan Weber, Executive Officer for AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens. And as he says, you can sign up for $16 at amac.us. amac.us. And with that, we've got to go to a break. Listeners, we're coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel, and Silent John Forsythe is working the boards in the studio. We'll all be right back after this break.
I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsythe, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we are trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote en masse to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos radio network. we're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet, we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos Radio Show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sharon Engel and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or at noon, RoarRadio.net, and at 11 p.m., HighPlainsDailyNews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos any day, anytime, from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. Our next guest is with us, and the honor of the introduction is mine. Manuel Rosales is a member of the board of directors at the Latino Coalition in Washington, D.C., where he holds the office of board secretary. He's an expert on U.S. relationship with Latin American countries and a principal founder of the Seniors for Trump and Latinos for Trump. He's also a principal at the Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, PAC. Manny Rosales, welcome to Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Thank you for having me. I love the introduction, especially with Carlos Santana and Oye Como Va. Perfect.
Well, listen, it's important for us to be inclusive as conservatives. We know that there are many Latino business people out there who share our love for free trade. They want government to get out of the way. We also know that there are many Latinos out there who are pro-family and pro-life, and they just belong on the conservative side of politics. Don't you think so, Manny?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. What happens is that sometimes our voice isn't heard because, particularly in the Latino media, it's all skewed. So sometimes we don't get the opportunity to go out there and put out the word. That's why the Latino Coalition and other organizations like that are there for education and informing. And obviously the HBRTI, the Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, is more in the political arena as a PAC, and we're going in there to basically support the issues that are most important to all Americans, but also focus on the Hispanic business community and the Hispanic community too.
Well, Manny, you know that in my day job, I'm an immigration lawyer, and so I've had a little contact with the Latino community in general, and they tend to be pretty activist just by nature. So can you talk to us a little bit about the Latino community and their activism when it comes to business and then politics?
Well, it's a great question. The reason I'm in the United States is because my father left Nicaragua when he was a young man because our family down there was very activist against the Somoza dictatorship, and there was also some threats, so he took off, wound up serving in the U.S. military in World War II, and we came here. So, but my uncle was a radio talk show host, and my grandmother was producing a newspaper, and they were very active in the communities. And you'll find that all over Latin America. We get involved. We're very, very aware of what's going on all over the world. I've had some incredible moments where I may be getting my shoe shine somewhere in Mexico, and the guy that's shining my shoes is talking politics, he's talking world affairs, and he knows just as much as I do because they're involved. So it's a really a misconception that we're not involved in the process. Unfortunately, is that when we come to the United States, not being able to assimilate right away, you have a tendency to rely on certain entities to get your opinions and get your data from, and a lot of that has to come from the organized labor. As my dad was a cooking culinary chef, and he belonged to the culinary union, so a lot of that information he got was from them until he got smart enough to say, wait a minute, this stuff doesn't work. This is not the right way to go. And I think most Latinos are pretty well informed of what's happening out there, and they're going to vote that, hopefully, in the informed way.
So you've been involved with Latinos for Trump. You've been involved with Seniors for Trump. Talk to us about how the Latino vote has played a role in this most recent presidential election here in the United States.
Well, there's a lot of people that were speculating that Trump would not get, 10 to maybe 16% of the vote. And I always said that the Latino vote is going to be like the Daniel Ortega vote in Nicaragua when he opened up voting for the presidency when he was a dictator, and because he had a 90% approval rating, and he figured, what the heck, he's not going to lose, so he's going to bow to the pressure of the UN, the OAS, and other international organizations. So he opened up the polls. Day of the election, he was like a 94% approval. The next day, he lost big time to Violeta Chamorro, the widow of a former activist in Nicaragua. So what happened is a lot of the Latinos may not have been saying what they were going to do, and they did it. And they voted their conscience, and they voted the issues that are most important to them. And I think that what happens is that most people don't think about the fact that obviously, just like in the regular Republican vote, you're not going to have the majority. So if you're talking about anywhere between 25 to 30%, which Romney got 27, and so far we understand that Mr. Trump got 29, that's probably around the base of the Latino vote. The other most important factor in there is that 45% of registered Latino voters are independent, and I think that's where the key is for us. And in that independent vote, you saw George W. Bush get almost 44% of that vote in 2004. So there is an opportunity there for us. But the Latino vote is very important, particularly in those states where the Latino population is above 50% or close to it. States like Colorado, states like Arizona, New Mexico, Nevada, as you can see it. I know Sharon is on with you. Nevada is a very important state. And unfortunately, the bigger votes are in states like California, which we're having a tough time ever getting a Republican in that state. New York is another one where there's a high Latino votes, but that state skews that way. And you saw what happened in Florida. We pulled it off, and everybody was saying that the Latino vote was going to go the other way, and it held pretty steady. So there's definitely the Latino vote's going to be even more important in the future as you see what's going to be happening in the population growth, because we're projecting that the Hispanic community is going to be close to 100 million in the next 20 to 30 years. So you're talking a big chunk of the population. And we have about 50,000 Hispanics turning 18 every month. So you know that's where it's going to be. It's going to be in that young vote that we have to get out there and educate and inform and have them vote in the conservative way on the issues that are most important to our nation and to our communities.
So now you've gotten involved with this Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, HBRTI, and that's a political action committee. So you've sponsored or endorsed some candidates. Do you want to talk a little bit about the results for the candidates that you endorsed in this most recent election?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was great. We had a great result in that. And one of the things that we decided is that the Latino Coalition is a nonpartisan nonprofit, 501c6, which is basically like an association, and we have a foundation. So we don't get involved in the political sense because we have to, obviously work with everybody. But we have a PAC that's separate and have separate members on it. I'm the chairman. Former SBA Administrator Hector Pareto is the president of the organization. And our role there was to basically support candidates and issues that were basically, within the parameters of what we do on a day-to-day basis for small businesses. The big issues are going to be in the areas of healthcare, in the areas of less regulation, access to capital, reductions in taxes, and also the other issue that's very important is education. So we formed the RTI, and then we went out and we looked at all the different candidates that we thought would be great candidates to have in the House of Representatives and the Senate that would be basically, carry those issues forward. And we were very fortunate that we were able to, endorse around 30, and we were able to get around 22 of those 30s that actually that won. So we had a pretty good track record. And one of them,
that's a very good track record, 22.
Yes, absolutely.
Very
good. We endorsed, also as an example, Democratic candidates. I mean, not just Republican candidates. As an example, in California, that's my home state. I'm from San Francisco, which is you want to go far left, you can't go further left than that. And California, has this wild new voting process that it's the top two go in on state runs like the Senate. And so what happens is there was two Democrats running for the U.S. Senate. So our choice was, who do we endorse? Kamala Harris, who won, or do we endorse Loretta Sanchez, who was a small businesswoman, Latina, and been in the Congress 16 years, and we've worked with her in the past. So we endorsed her. Unfortunately, she didn't succeed. But that's how we look at things. People that can support us, people who have worked with us, so Democrat or Republican, and obviously that record that we hit that was pretty good. I mean, we were very proud of that fact.
Well, Manny, we want to continue talking with you, but we've got to take a quick 2-minute break. Can you hold on for me?
Absolutely. No problem.
Thank you so much. We are speaking with Manuel Rosales. He's with the Latino Coalition and the Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute PAC, and we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel, speaking with Manny Rosales. We'll be right back after this break.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I...
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com, or at noon, RoarRadio.net, and at 11 p.m., HighPlainsDailyNews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We are speaking this segment with Manuel Rosales, a member of the Board of Directors at the Latino Coalition in Washington, D.C., and a principal at the Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, PAC. Manny, thank you so much for waiting through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Oh, no, thank you so much. And, Sharon, I also like to mention that I'm the national chairman of the Latino National Republican Coalition, which is a grassroots organization that we basically formed during the time that I was at the RNC in the coalitions division, trying to build all those networks throughout the United States. So we kept the coalition intact, and we have state chapters all over the country, and they were very, very hardworking during this past election. And some of them, went way over the call of duty in ensuring that we got the right people elected in the office.
Well, Manny, before the break, you were talking to us about how important the Latino vote was in the state of Nevada, and I am happy to inform you that my co-host, Sharon Engel, is with us, and she'd love to speak with you about that.
Oh, absolutely.
Hi, Manny. It's so great to have you on the show today. If you hear a little background noise, I'm here at the gun show in Reno, Nevada, one of the largest gun shows in the United States. And the exciting part about this is that we've just passed a universal background check, so it'll be interesting to see how freedom reigns in Nevada. And, of course, Manny, that's why I want to talk to you, because we thought we were about 20% Hispanic here in Nevada, but you're saying we're much greater Hispanic population than that.
Well, it's first of all, Sharon, it's great to speak to you. We haven't talked in quite a while, and I'm glad to see that you're still in the fray and making a difference. I know that you're a great leader there in Nevada and all over the country, so it's great to hear from you again. Fantastic. Yes, Nevada was a very important state. It's the population of Hispanics has grown in Nevada. And we have had some pretty influential groups in there, like the Las Vegas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce is a very influential group in Nevada, especially down there in the Las Vegas area. Most of the conservative votes, as you know, Sharon, they're native there up in the north, in the Reno area. And I being from San Francisco, I used to go a lot to Reno because it's not that far away. And it's always a difference between that and down in the Las Vegas area. But the Latino vote did have a big play in Nevada. As you can see, that Mr. Trump was there several times. We have a lot of great activist groups that were out there working it. And I think Nevada is going to become even more important in the future in reference to the Latino vote.
Oh, wait. I'm having difficulties here. What happened?
Maybe it's the slot machine.
Maybe it is.
Yeah, because every time I go to switch planes in Las Vegas, that's what you do for while you're waiting, you know?
You can mute your phone so that some of that background noise will weed out. But let's continue the interview. Go ahead, Sharon.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to get in a better spot here where we don't have so much background noise. So it's interesting. We lost the state for Trump, and everyone thought we would win it. How did the Hispanic vote play in the state or not play in the state, especially when we're talking about Nevada? We feel like we've now become Eastern California.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a challenge. I mean, we have friends that hosted Mr. Trump in a restaurant down in Las Vegas, and there was all kinds of threats against her. She's a great Latina entrepreneur, has a fabulous restaurant with a great reputation. She hosted a couple of events, and it became pretty nasty, boycotts and threats on her life. I mean, it's pretty crazy how things were working out there. Thank God that nothing happened, and that they continued to work. But obviously, like I was telling Anna, is that the Latino media has a way of skewing things. I mean, their whole thing was immigration. Obviously, the hate mongering against Mr. Trump. The fact that he didn't like Mexicans. And there was a lot of people that were offended by that, and also a lot of people that didn't understand that what he said was right. Unfortunately, how he said it was wrong. But the bottom line is that the Latino media then skews it in that sense, in reference all about immigration, where really when you look at it, and all not just in Nevada but all over the country, that's not the highest issue on all of the items. I mean, jobs is number one. Jobs, the economy, education, healthcare, security. Those are real high on the list, and obviously, just like every other American, that's where the vote came in. Now, obviously, when we're talking about Latinos and we're talking about immigration, we all know somebody who may be undocumented, and we have a kind of a soft spot in our hearts for that. But we also have to realize that we're a country of laws. We have a border that we have to protect, and now with the security threats from all over the world, we have to really be careful of how we manage that. Hopefully, Mr. Trump will be able to manage that in a smart way by obviously securing the border and then determining what to do with the individuals that are here undocumented, and I'm sure that we'll work it out in a way it's not going to be as crazy as everybody's saying it's going to be. It's going to be something rational. Hopefully it will be something like we used to have in the old days with the Bacero program that actually worked. People came on work visas, came to work, and then went home, back to their countries. So hopefully we can do that again, and I think that that's going to be very important in the future, and we have an opportunity to prove ourselves to the Latino community that we are basically an inclusive, party, and we have an inclusive agenda. And the bottom line is it's going to be great for all Americans.
Yeah, I'm still here. Is Sharon dropped off?
Well, that's that Nevada. Maybe Harry Reid cut off her.
Yeah, you never know what's going to happen.
No, I sent it back to you. I thought you saw it.
No.
Sorry.
Well, the most disappointing part of Nevada was, Tarkanian didn't win. There was Harry
problem.
All right. Well, Manny, I want to thank you very much for spending...
The best news out of Nevada is Harry Reid is gone. You're going to get it back.
My goodness.
Totally.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, Manny, I want to thank you for spending all this time with us today on Conservative Commando's radio show. We do want you to come back and see us again soon, but would you remind our listeners where they can catch up with you and the Latino Coalition, the Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute PAC, and the other organization that you talked about?
Sure. The Latino Coalition is basically the LatinoCoalition.com. The Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, that's on the web. You can find us there. And also the LNRC, the Latino National Republican Coalition. And we're very active. And again, I want to thank you, Anna, for what you do. I know it's a challenge to do this kind of advocacy in radio. It's a great opportunity to communicate with different people and get people to listen and get involved and also get informed. And I would love to come back anytime you want me to. It would be an honor.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And listeners, that is why we have Manny Rosales on the radio today, because he's just so dedicated. Manny, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Okay, thank you. Have a great weekend.
Okay. And listeners, that was Manuel Rosales, board member at the Latino Coalition in Washington, D.C., and principal at Hispanic Business Roundtable Institute, PAC. And we are going into another break. Time flies when you're having fun. Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios are in Philadelphia at WNJC 1360 and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting with Sharon Engel, and we'll be right back with you after this break.
I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but
This is Rick Trader, host of the Conservative Commandos radio show.
And I'm John Forsyth, owner of WNJC Radio. Fellow patriots, the Conservative Commandos radio show is for conservatives, about conservatives, and by conservatives.
We are patriots who want to take our country back from the likes of Barack Obama, Harry Reid, George Soros, and Nancy Pelosi.
But we can't keep up this fight without your critical support today. Can you help? Please go to www.helpccrs.com right now and make a donation by credit card or PayPal. That's www.helpccrs.com.
Our goal is to expose the liberal agenda and distortions. We are fighting to spread the truth about political issues, political leaders, and conservative issues and values.
Our hosts are not paid. In fact, we buy our own airtime, studio time, and pay our own expenses.
We created the show because we're trying to make a difference. So can you help the CCRS expose the truth in 2014 and beyond? Go to www.helpccrs.com.
Help keep the Conservative Commandos radio show on the air by going to www.helpccrs.com and make a donation today to return our country to the conservative roots created by our founding fathers.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote en masse to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We're establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired, as I am, about the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. on WNJC Radio 1360 a.m. or around the world on the internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our websites, ConservativeCommandosRadioNetwork.com and CCRN.com for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where even more newsmakers go to be heard. From the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios. WNJC 1360. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
You are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show, coming to you from Philadelphia. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our website, ccrsnetwork.com, ccrshow.com, or at noon log on to roarradio.net. And 11 p.m. you can log on to highplainsdailynews.com. And now you can listen to Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. And we have our next guest ready for us, Anna, and it's my honor to introduce to you Deborah Weiss, who works with Vigilance, or for Vigilance, an organization dedicated to raising awareness of Sharia law and its encroachment into the West. She is considered an expert in the Organization of Islamic Corporations U.S. resolutions to stifle criticism of Islam and the Muslim Brotherhood tactics to protect Islam from so-called defamation. Previously, Ms. Weiss was the Manhattan director for the Forbes for President campaign. She served on the council for the Committee of the House Oversight and Congress and worked as an assistant corporation counsel in the Giuliani administration. She is the contributing author to a book, Saudi Arabia and Global Islamic Terrorist Network. She's also the primary writer and researcher for the book, Council on American Islamic Relations, Its Use of Lawfare and Intimidation. She's authored the book, The Organization of Islamic Corporations, Jihad Against Free Speech, and she's a regular contributor to the Washington Times Front Page Magazine, National Review Online, The Weekly Standard, and American Spectator. And her work can be found at vigilancenow.org. She's also survivor of the 9/11 terrorist attack in New York City. Deborah Weiss, welcome to Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I have to tell you that I have a terrible connection and can hardly hear you, so I have you on speakerphone now, which I know you're not supposed to do, so I can either, sludge through it like this, or I don't know if you want to try again, but is this going to work for you?
It works for me. I'm not sure how it's working in the studio. John, as our broadcast device.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being on our program, Deborah, and we're really eager to talk to you about this whole idea of Sharia law. How how great a threat is it to America, and should we be worried at all, or is it really there's no problem, no one's going under Sharia law, there are no cities in America that have Sharia law, we're just being paranoid? What's the real truth here?
Actually, so now, can you hear me like this? Hello?
Yes, we can. Go
okay.
ahead.
Yeah, actually, it is a threat. Sometimes the threat gets exaggerated when you hear people say we're living under it now. Obviously, we're not living under it now because when it's in full force, it's implemented through the government by force of law. For those in the audience who aren't familiar with Sharia law, it just means Islamic law. So if you look to Saudi Arabia or Iran, those are two examples of countries that live under Sharia law. One is Sunni, one is Shia, but there's no separation of mosque and state. They don't have civil laws the way we do here, and then you practice your religion on your own. It's just the religious law and the laws of the land are one and the same. And we have numerous organizations here that are trying to gradually and slowly push preferential treatments for Muslims or slowly implement their ideas and basically dismantle what we have in place now, starting with, first and foremost, censorship of speech. You can't say anything bad about Islam or Muslims, even if it's true and even if it's backed up by fact. For example, if you talk about Islamic terrorism, then you're an Islamophobe. So, obviously you have to have your head in the sand to think that there's no such thing as Islamic terrorism. But by them calling names is one way of them getting people to stop talking about it, and more importantly, to dismantle programs to protect us against it in the government. And I do hope, Anna, that we'll have a chance to talk a little bit about what we might expect of treatment about Islamic terrorism and other national security issues in a Trump administration versus the direction that we've been going in under Obama.
Well, why don't you go ahead and just talk about that right now? You don't have to wait for Anna. You've got the go-ahead from Sharon Engel, so just go for it.
Okay. Well, under the Obama administration, unfortunately, our national security training has been purged, and they have changed the training to omit all mention of Islamic terrorism. They've rewritten programs for the national security professionals, and they still learn about terrorism, but they don't learn about the underlying ideology motivating it. And this is very important because, as Sun Tzu, a famous Chinese military general, said years and years and years ago, in order to win a war, you have to know who you are, and you have to know who your enemy is. You have to be able to name them by name and understand what their goals and their motivations and their objectives are. So these terrorist attacks that you see in Orlando or San Bernardino or even in France, Charlie Hebdo, or what was attempted in Garland, Texas, are not random isolated incidences by, quote, lone wolves. They are part of a larger movement to establish an Islamic caliphate and to implement worldwide Sharia law. And there are terrorist groups that support these goals. There are nonviolent Muslim Brotherhood groups that operate under the guise of Muslim civil rights organizations in this country. And there are individuals that support that cause. So the difference among those groups is they have different tactics, but the goals are the same. And unless you want to be forever cleaning up messes and trying to prosecute potential survivors who committed these attacks, as opposed to preventing them by catching them in their early stages, you have to understand who they are and what they're about. Why are they doing this? And try to track them. And this administration has been more than negligent about it. They've been purposely derailing any ability for our intelligence agencies and national security agencies to do just that. So, I mean, I could talk a little about, in the Trump administration, I think you'll also see a complete overhaul of the way national security is approached. There's not going to be any political correctness. We're going to call a spade a spade. I think you'll see support for Ted Cruz had a bill to name the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign terrorist organization, which would outlaw that organization and any affiliated organizations in this country, including CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations, and which is, by the way, already designated as a terrorist organization in the UAE. And I think that would make a huge difference in the language that we can use and the topics that we can discuss, because we wouldn't have quite the push to censor everything out of political correctness. And I also think he's going to realign the U.S. with our allies, including and especially Israel. I mean, Obama really was rewarding our enemies, like Iran, for example, and abandoning our allies. And any psychologist or even an ordinary person, if you have children, you know that if you reward a behavior, you get more of it. And if you punish a behavior, you get less of it. And that's part of the reason we've seen increased attacks in America and in the Middle East. And that's why, for him to sign that, quote, Iran agreement, which was a total lie, I think that Iran agreement is going to be dismantled. I think you're going to see pride in American sovereignty and putting America first, which includes protecting ourselves from foreign enemies and domestic enemies and securing our borders. And while we can work with other countries and make allowances for certain people, we're not going to be doing it at the expense of American freedom or national security. Hello?
Well, this is Anna Little. I'll jump in because Sharon Engel is supposed to be handling this part of the interview. But you know what, Deborah, we are coming right up on a break because it's 4:45. We've got to go to that break. So I'll take us to it, and you hold on for 2 minutes, and then I'll bring you back.
I'm going to hang up and let you call back because I can hardly hear you. Is that okay?
John in the studio. Can you handle that?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, terrific. Okay, listeners, we are coming to you live from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios, WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, and around the world on the Internet with American Patriots Broadcasting, TalkStream Live, SHR Media, K98 Talk, iHeartRadio, and AM/FM 24/7. Those are all .coms. I'm Anna Little, co-hosting today with Sharon Engel, and we'll be right back with you after this break.
They say I'm crazy, I really don't care, that's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but I
The Conservative Commandos radio show is expanding to become the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. We are establishing a front line of conservative radio broadcasters and ironclad patriots to declare war against the madness of liberalism and the Obama administration. Are you tired of the disregard for our Constitution? Do you still have faith in the American dream? Are you looking for sensible, smart radio? If so, listen to the Conservative Commandos Radio Network every weekday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on WNJC Radio, 1360 on your AM dial, or around the world on the Internet at WNJCradio.com. Check out our website, CCRSnetwork.com, for rebroadcasts and network updates. We are the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, where now even more newsmakers go to be heard.
This is Pastor Christina Lamanier, chaplain for the INRA.
And I'm her husband, J.D. Manier. We help co-host on the Conservative Commandos radio show, and we want to sincerely thank our listeners who turned out to vote in mass to elect Donald Trump, Governor Mike Pence, and conservative congressional candidates across our nation.
Against incredible odds, you helped create the strongest GOP team to take the reins of power in Washington since the 1920s. General George Patton said, "It's the unconquerable soul of man, not the nature of the weapon he uses, that ensures victory." We salute all of you for taking a stand for truth, freedom, and defending our constitutional form of government. Let us continue to pray for our nation and for God's blessings. May God save the United States of America.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando radio show.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharon Engel and Anna Little. If you would like to hear a rebroadcast of today's show, please check out our websites, CCRS Network and CCRShow.com. Or at noon, RoarRadio.net. And at 11 p.m., HighPlainsDailyNews.com. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos from any phone by calling 832-999-1199. We are speaking this segment with Deborah Weiss, who works for Vigilance, and she's a survivor of the 9/11 terrorist attack in New York City, among other very highly recommendable credentials. And we are talking to her about national security now that we have President Trump on the scene. Deborah Weiss, thank you so much for holding through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So, Deborah, you've been talking to us about what national security could be and Sharia law and call an enemy an enemy. And, you know, I think we all, among our listeners, are staunch conservatives, and we back you on all of this. I'd like to know what it's like as a survivor of the attack, which, quite frankly, was an attack on our nation by an enemy the likes of which we haven't really dealt with before. You're a survivor. Can you give us some insight into how we as a people should survive the attacks that this enemy would put forth against us, and how this administration can help?
Well, I mean, basically it's just what I said before, which is to properly identify and label the enemies, to have a proper assessment of the threats, the goals, and the ideology, and to focus on facts instead of emotions. I have to say that witnessing the unhinged reaction of the left to the election results is really amazing. I understand people being disappointed. I understand people disagreeing. But, you know, if you lost, you lost. That's the system that we have set up. And it's so ironic that the left was anticipating a Clinton win and that Trump would be a sore loser, so to speak. And here they are. It's, you know, a week out, over a week out, and they're still having protests and doing really crazy things on the left, like they're letting students out of classes if they're, quote, traumatized, giving them therapy, offering them Play-Doh sessions in college. They're letting them delay their exams. And I've just been notified, by a teacher in a high school that there's a teacher there who has been giving the students assignments that say things like, now that we have a president-elect who supports the KKK and is racist, bigoted, and Islamophobic, how is that going to harm our country? And when there were a few students who objected to the premise of the question, she actually used the F word against them. And they have started a club there, a Never Trump, and it wasn't conservative Never Trump, it was just Never Trump, to say that, they don't agree that we should just accept the elections. I've seen on Capitol Hill swarms of protests from high school-age students holding signs like, ban Bannon and not Muslims. These are students who don't even know who the vice president is when you ask them. I doubt if they know who Bannon is. And there were buses, so they were clearly shipped in, and they're holding signs that don't even make sense. Like, my favorite one was, we won't let him divide us, hashtag, he's not our president. So all I can say is, in my lifetime, I have never seen the vitriol, the hatred, and the irrationality of the left. If you don't agree with a policy or a position, that's one thing. But here they are already talking about impeaching him, and he's not even in office yet. And the language I've seen people use, which is nothing more than name-calling. He's racist, bigoted, Islamophobic, homophobic, this obic, that obic. It's not fact-based, and they're steering away from having actual discussions on policies and facts because, in my opinion, that's all they have. I mean, if we want to have a discussion about is it a good idea to ban people from high terrorist risk countries, right? I mean, first he said all Muslims, but he changed it. He changed it to from certain countries, and even then, the mainstream media kept reporting the original position as though it hadn't changed. But in no event did he ever say that anything about doing anything to Muslims who are here and who are citizens. We're talking about people entering our country from other countries, and it is a falsehood, as I'm sure you know as a lawyer, that people from other countries have a, quote, right to enter our country without our permission. It is up to us as a sovereign nation if we let people in, whom we let in, when we let them in, why we let them in. We don't have to allow anyone in from any country if we don't want to. And this administration, Trump has been very clear that he will be letting people in, but when they make the decision about whom, it will be something that is taking America's best interests into consideration first and foremost, not just to be, quote, nice at risk of our American national security. So how is that, quote, Islamophobic? What does Islamophobic mean? I mean, if you're talking about bigoted or prejudice, prejudgment against somebody, that's not what this is. We've had a wave of Islamic terrorist attacks throughout the West, have already started in America, and our administration has admitted that they do not know how to vet them. ISIS has stated and has actually already infiltrated some of the, quote, refugee groups. So if we don't know who's who, why are we letting them in? And by the way, the, quote, Syrian refugees are not really Syrian refugees. They are largely immigrants, economic migrants from a whole bunch of countries, including Pakistan, Afghanistan, from all over. They're not just from Syria, and they're not truly persecuted. Pakistan, it doesn't have Muslims coming in here because they're persecuted. They're just looking for economic opportunity, and they're coming in waves. We have a very high percent of Syria that has left. We can't just relocate the entire Middle East and resituate them in the West. We have to find a better solution that will allow them to stay where they are in peace and security, and that will allow us to remain sovereign nations with the resources that we need for our own people.
Well, Deborah, I couldn't have said it better, and I'm so glad that you came on the show to share all of that with us. I know you're the author of a couple of books. Do you want to quickly plug those books because our segment is coming to a close?
I didn't hear what you said about the books, but I mean, if you go,
plug them. We have one called.
The Organization of Islamic Cooperation's Jihad on Free Speech that you can get at Amazon pretty inexpensively, and I'm writing one now on Islamist censorship in Hollywood, which is pretty interesting. You can never have an Islamic terrorist in a movie, but there's also a bunch of independent films that are coming out that are basically propaganda and disinformation campaigns. And all I can say is that if you're sitting in the audience and you have children who are high school or college age, check their textbooks, talk with them, know what they're learning in school. They're not learning history. They're not learning the Constitution. They're not learning the importance of free speech, and they don't understand the unique preciousness of freedom that America offers. It is unique in the world. If you look throughout history and around the world, there never has been and is not now something like it. And they are learning anti-Americanism in school in favor of a utopia that never did and never will exist. So have these discussions with your kids. Send them some articles. Make sure you know what they're learning. Bring your friends to some seminars. Pass forward articles. And make sure your children understand the importance of freedom so that we can keep America a sovereign, strong, and free country. Thank you so much for having me, Anna.
Oh, you're very welcome. That was Deborah Weiss. Come back and see us again soon, Deborah.
I'd love to do that. Thank you.
Okay, take care. Listeners, we have had a jam-packed show today. I was co-hosting today with Sharon Engel. I want to thank her for her time. Don Forsyth on the boards in the studio. We spoke with Dan Weber of AMAC. We spoke with Manny Rosales from the Latino Coalition, among other organizations, and Deborah Weiss, a 9/11 survivor from the attack in New York City who works at Vigilance, which is dedicated to raising the awareness of Sharia law. But we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next week on the radio.